We're talking about the new rules of scaling expert businesses. So, this is a topic that you and I have been discussing since last November. And basically, anybody I know who understands the expert game, who's been in this space for more than a few years, knows that the game is changing. The rules, the fundamentals don't change, but the way those fundamentals are walked out has been changing in a massive way over the last couple of years. So, what's your take on that? What have you been seeing to kind of tee us up with all the context that you have with your 20 plus years of experience? What are the big macro changes you're seeing right now in the expert space?
So here's the interesting thing. I think it's changing. Funny enough, I say this all the time, and I think there's only a few old timers in this internet marketing space that can attest to this. It's just cyclical, right? If you look at the markets, right? Markets go up, markets go down. Markets go up, markets go down. As a matter of fact, if markets have gone up for a exponential period of time, you can just kind of bet that they'll go down at some point. There has to be a correction, they call it, in the market space. This is a cycle that's repeated itself for decades now, and it's to be expected. And as a matter of fact, most smart investors would say, if the market keeps going up and 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 never corrects, they're scared as crap. They're like, hey, the longer that correction is avoided, the bigger it will be. And so we were due for a quote unquote correction in this market. And COVID happened and it screwed things up. I was on the record, prior to COVID or COVID time saying it's here. We're entering the low ticket cycle, as I called it. And it's just human behavior. Now, you know what? The other day I was talking to someone and they said, oh, so it must be economic. And I said, you think that? But it's actually, I don't think it's as much economic. Of course, the two go hand in hand. But it's more human behavior, okay? So let me explain what I mean here. If you're used to hearing the exact same, like, okay, Richard, your kid comes into your room, it's 9 o'clock, and she comes running in, Daddy, I need help. The first time you're like, oh my God, what's wrong? You go into her room and she's like, my stuffed toy is lost. And you're like, seriously, got me out of bed for this? Like, this is not an emergency. And then the next day at 9 o'clock, she comes in, Daddy, I need help. Again, you get up, you're like, what's up? And then again, it's a stuffed toy emergency. You're like, this isn't, by the 5th or 6th or 7th day, you've become kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? You've become like kind of numb to that moment. Like by the 5th or 6th day, she comes running in, you're gonna be like, I already know it's not an emergency. And God forbid, it's like the boy that cried wolf story, right? So same thought process goes into marketing. And so when one funnel works really well in our industry, others start to quickly emulate it. And suddenly that funnel, that strategy, that model, that pricing gets seen again and again. It becomes the Daddy, there's an emergency 5 days in. And the market, so for a while it was book a strategy session, free strategy session, get on the phone and we'll blah, 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 blah. And in time, the market figures out, hey, that's just a pitch call. Like, I don't want to do this. I don't want a strategy session, right? So the market's behavior kind of, A, gets burned out on that messaging, and B, they're like, oh, so I've already bought 6 of these 10K packages. I didn't get the results from it, regardless of whether it was their fault or, whatever. But so the market starts to kind of turn their back on that type of offer. And that's why the human behavior changes. Now, when you add an economic impact to it, and you add the fact that maybe there's an economic downturn at the same time, people also cannot afford as much of the 10K offer, that just accelerates that process. So that's all we're in, okay? And when around COVID happened, everybody and their mom was launching webinars. 1997 offers at the back end, and you were seeing ads that went to webinar funnels all day long. So over time, the market just started to adapt and say, this isn't live, there will be a replay, and it's just going to be a big pitch fest. So the response rate to a webinar dropped quite a bit, and people started saying webinars aren't working anymore. But that's not true. It's just you need to approach them differently. There needs to be something different about how you do things. When COVID happened, I was like, here we go. That's it. We were anyways due for a cycle. Human behavior was starting to change. And now we're going to have this massive economic impact. And so we got to go low ticket. Now, funny enough, I didn't really follow my own advice. And in a way, I'm happy I didn't. And in a way, I'm not happy I didn't. because who would have guessed that trillions of dollars would be infused into the economy? You know, I couldn't have guessed that there would be a lockdown and people would be stuck at home and they would turn to the internet and start trying to buy all these things, and they'd have extra capital money that was given to them by the government to spend on it. So if anything, it kind of revived. And so this is like that artificial, government investment into something where it just like, even though the high ticket should have taken a deeper or a steeper turn, and we should have entered the low ticket phase long back, that bump, it created, and you know what that did? It did exactly what happens in the market when you avoid a correction for too long. It's making the eventual inevitable correction much worse, so to say. And so that's where we are today. So that was a long dissertation to tell everybody. None of this surprises me, and none of this is bad. It's just human behavior changing. We're at a low ticket again. People are burned out. There's competition came pouring in during COVID time. A lot of people selling the same messaging. Those people are falling off the trees now. They can't survive because paid ads aren't working as well, and they didn't have a genuine business. They had a bit of a cash cow. So as that tree shakes, the paid traffic costs will come down again. Human behavior will be less burned out. As the economy recovers, people will be more apt to spending money. And next thing you know, we're going to go from low ticket to back to high ticket, back to super ticket. It's going to be the same cycle. So when you've been around long enough, if you can just predict those cycles, get a little bit ahead of it, you're better prepared. Right now, we're in a place where people want to buy, they want to learn, but they're burned out on the same old ways. They're a little bit weird about what's happening in the market. Am I going to lose my job? So they're not spending big bucks. They will, but they take more time to court. They take more time to get to know them. It's honestly, man, I always try to drive like real life experiences as an example, as analogies for people. If you're out there dating and you're going to date a girl who's had like 5 horrific relationships, you're just going to take longer to win her trust and to get that person over versus someone who doesn't have that experience. So right now, the market, think of this, your customers have just had like really bad relationships and they're kind of in a weird place. So they're not saying they don't want to date you. They're just saying, take it slow. So that's where the low ticket comes in. And it's like, hey, let me earn your trust, get to know me. I'm good. Once you're in my community, you learn more about me, you're going to want more. And that's the psychology. And if high ticket marketers can just understand that psychology, they'll finally embrace why low ticket is so important. I've been giving this example. I'll never tell the name of the person, but there's a very dear friend, was part of a huge organization doing like $70-80 million a year, high ticket only. And I would say he was lovingly one of my biggest critics on the low ticket stuff. Didn't want to hear anything about it. Didn't want anything to do with it. And I've been saying the same message to him for years now. And I mean, you're talking about $70-80 million a year empire fell completely apart in like 6 weeks. Like it was I would have never guessed it would happen that fast, but the market just changed. Behavior changed. Facebook must have made some changes on their advertising algorithms and everything hit them at one time. And now all of a sudden, next thing I know, they're asking for our low ticket training. And I told him too, I said, low ticket's a different ballgame, man. It's a different psychology. It's about relationship building, community building, trust building. It's not about direct marketing. And what he's really good at is like punch, direct marketing, $1 in, $2 out, get the sale. And I'm like, that day is temporarily at least gone. I'm not sure it'll ever come back because we're adapting now. The younger generations up and coming are all relationship driven. We're all social media driven. We have access to bountiful amounts of information at our fingertips. AI has entered the landscape. So I don't know if we're ever going to go back. And to be fair, I was one of the first people. I mean, I bought the domain name interactive marketing because I called the death of direct marketing over 10 years ago. I literally said it's so I just say it's not dead, it's evolving. It's evolving into something called interactive marketing. I just don't think the days of beating people over the head and getting a sale real quick it is a day that's going to work. So anyways, what a short question and an incredibly long answer, but I wanted to get into the psychology of it so that people understand
Solid answer.
why I am talking about low tickets, not just, I'm not just trying to get you to sell books. There's a reason.